like to try some landscape, simple landscape on this pre-mounted sandpaper. I'm using a 2.5-inch wash brush. I will wet the brush and dry. Tip one side in the water and then load in some green. Blend on one side and using the same side, loading some darker green, thicker, and blend. So right now, starting out with some of the greens, I have that edge touching a little water so that it will not form too hard an edge. I have the lighter side on the lower end because that way the shape is able to fade naturally. And if I should overlap the stroke, you can see the shape continued and blend together. But if I should let the lower end in contact with the paper, then the color will naturally fade. And I will have a basic shape of a mountain facing this way, and then accompany with a smaller hill to say hi to the main peak. And now I changed to a unique brush a friend made for me, and he had cut most of the hair off and leave one little area open. So this one, to me, is a good brush to work the textures. So I have some of the shape expand with some of the warm color, but dry brush to add some interesting textures. And it is dry, so you can kind of rubbing it left and right, up and down, to allow interesting pattern of textures. And continuing it down, and allow it to fade. In doing landscape, of course, the space represents the element of water. So the purpose is to allow the shape, which is the mountain, to ease into by fading, by ending with less detail, to allow the shape integrate with the space. Allow the mountain integrate with the water. So I'm particularly paying attention to the lower area. Imagine a layer of mist exists. So right now I have some texture accompanying the shape or the blob. And these two elements already is like the yin and yang of the mountain. This texture also can be created by the mountain horse brush, another very powerful tool to create textures. So some of the texture is added. And I'm adding some warm color, diluted ochre, excuse me, and vermilion, and adding some textured wash to accompany the line work. And I try to allow the fading, again, forming a horizontal layer. I will load back the green, dark green, and this time adding some ink at the tip. I try to get the peak of the mountain extend to show some prominent ink work. And allow it to fade. And also introduce some of the ink work in the crevices. So there's some wet element, some dry element, and some color, some ink, and they are all very harmoniously integrated and fading into the space. Now I like to add some suggestion of our human activities, but it's never dominating. It's like comfortably living in with the mountain. Now a little bit ochre, brown with green and ink. You see the brush is always laid down, so one end is naturally fading. It's just a beautiful way to integrate the painted part with the space, which represents the water. Little doors and windows. Place for visit. The perspective is always looking down, so you see the houses are mostly the roofs. And then maybe have a little boat. Showing a little bit reflection. Little person on the boat. Just a suggestion. Holding something. And perhaps a little bit colored. Show the roof. And now I'd like to have a little bit suggestion of depth. As the scenery fades in distance to the top, we might have some distant peak. In the mist, maybe peeking through, overlapping. Yes, now let's do some dark work. Happy dots. I use some green chip touching ink. I'll work some foliage. Herbs in front of the house a little bit too. Flower bed. reaching to the side. Should I have some laundry hanging? No. And these happy dots can continue. See, the mountain is the father, the water is the mother, and the trees and houses and people, these are children. And we try to allow the viewer to follow these dots. And allow these dots to indicate a little more depth. So the smaller ones on top, bigger ones down below. And allow some of the dots fading. To connect the mountain with the water. Because this can be endless.